I feel like I have an annoying voice.
No.
No, like, you know how,
No.
like, they make that joke, like, "Oh, you have a face for radio," kinda thing?
Yeah.
But,
People
like,
have told me that
I'm, like,
many
one
times.
step further, like, you I don't have a even voice for radio kinda you know,
Oh,
like,
oh,
you
oh,
know
oh.
you know our
You have
brother
a voice for a silent film.
you say, "Good morning. This is Monday morning," something like that, right?
I'm looking at my clock right now. It's analog and it says Monday morning. That must mean it is time for the DCP, the Dear Church podcast today. Good morning. And we have two special guests, and it's going to be really, really picante, as they say, south of the border. And today we're going to be talking about the music ministry, asking questions like, why do we sing? Why do we play drums? Why is Chunsuk so good at electric guitar? We'll be talking about all these things and more this morning on the Dear Church podcast.
That's what happens, right?
Welcome to the Dear Church podcast, where we exist to fill your ears and your minds with the study of God to see the world as disciples of Christ. My name is Sam Yang, and today we have two special guests. Well, one special one other guest. She's just here all the time now. Apparently, this is her home. So we have with us Christine, and we have with us Peter.
Hello.
Peter and Christine are two leaders in our music ministry. And they are not only very, very talented, but they are very, very excited to share about the music ministry. And I have a bunch of questions. So I just wanted to ask, first and foremost, how are you guys doing this fine Monday morning?
Well, Sam, thanks for asking. I'm just quite dandy.
I'm pretty good, man.
Thank you.
It's a
Thank
pleasure
you for a
to
normal answer.
It's a pleasure to be here.
We've been trying to get everybody on because I think there's a lot of questions that people might have concerning the music nerds, the music ministry, and just what you guys do. And I think people may be even curious about the processes that you guys go through in choosing songs, choosing sets. You know, who gets to play drum set? And why is it always Peter? Who gets to play guitar? You know, what does the audition process look like? Are you guys famous? Like, all these different questions are just bubbling in my mind as we speak. And so, that being the case, I just wanted to maybe do a quick introduction, perhaps starting with Peter, because everybody and their mother knows Christine. So I think,
Dude, that actually might be true at this church.
yeah.
That's not
So
true.
I think just Peter perhaps introducing himself would be great.
Okay. My name is Peter. I'm the deacon for the music ministry at CGS. Do I have to say anything else outside of that?
Yeah, maybe
Like-
10 interesting facts about you.
10 interesting facts. All right, I'll say maybe what I do as a deacon for the music ministry. So I help mostly with organizing, schedules, getting teams together for Saturdays and Sunday service, big church events. But yeah, I'm overall like the point person for all things related to music in our church. I'm also the drummer on the B team
Oh, yeah. Oh,
when the A team drummer can't make it. So Sam is part of the A team.
I'm not.
Has the A team drummer, which he rubs in my face every day. Bad guy. But yeah,
I
he's
don't.
very busy, so I fill in for him when he can't play. And I sometimes lead in song on guitar and vocals on Sundays and Saturdays for
Mm.
AM prayer.
Christine, what about you? Who are you?
Hi, I'm Christine. I'm one of the leaders. Just also contrary to popular belief, there is no A and B team. I just have to put that out there. That's a fake thing. There's no A and B team.
Dude, Sam rubs it in my face all the time.
Hey, no way.
He's always
There's
like,
no
oh,
such
that fill
thing.
was off.
There's no such thing as an A and B team. It's just based on availability. Anyway,
But yeah, thank you guys so much for serving. I think, everyone is so encouraged and blessed by your serving the church and serving the Lord through your gifts in music. But I wanted to talk about that, music in a worship service. So, we have been reforming as a church, and we know that the word is central. We know that the preaching of the word is central to a Sunday service. But I guess my question is, why music? Why music in a worship service? Where do we see in the word music being used to worship God?
so I just wanted to start off by saying we are not experts. We are learning. We are being led by Pastor Eugene and the elders on the best way the music ministry can serve the church. There are like real theological convictions that go into why we make certain decisions to do things in the music ministry. Obviously, there's a lot of conversation around how to do music in different churches. We just try to do our best to do it according to the word, and then we submit to whatever our elders advise us on how to do it. So I just wanted to get that out there. Like we're like learning and changing as we go as well.
Thank you for that treatise on worship.
That's the longest disclaimer.
Why music in a worship service?
Well, I think music is really important. It is a gift from the Lord. Specifically within music, the big part that we try to push at our church is singing, right? And so we see all over the word that singing is commanded of the people of God. It's actually all over the Bible multiple times, and we were created to sing. So oftentimes the people of God were marked by this characteristic of being singers. It's maybe something that gets lost a little bit. I think we've been trying in the past couple of years to promote congregational singing. There are a number of examples of when God's people would sing in worship to God when there was a gathering. I think one example is Miriam when she led the song after the Israelites went through the Red Sea. Yep. And then
She played tambourine. Avid
Yes.
tambourine player.
according to Ligonier, in English, the word worship is derived from the Old English word worthskype. A little bit more on worship. That word actually comes from an Old English word which means an acknowledgement of worth.
What's that old English word?
Worthskype. I don't know how to.
We are
pronounce it.
Skype.
We are Skype? I don't know. Just take that out. The Greek word is prosekoneo. The Greek word is
I think it's proskuneo.
thank
right?
you, proskuneo.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with words today. And that word means to fall down. In Hebrew, the word means to bow down.
What's
Can
the
you
word?
say the
How do you
word?
say it?
You say it. All right. In Hebrew, there's a word that means to bow down. But if we look at all these three words together, it doesn't necessarily give us the complete idea of worship. So according to Ligonier, worship of God involves the entire person. So those three words doesn't give us the full or complete idea of worship, but as each word, you can tell each word kind of points to a different element of what worship is, right? This idea of acknowledging of worth, falling down, bowing down. And Ligonier actually tells us that worshiping God involves the whole person. If we look at Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4-6, if you can read it for us, Sam.
Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4-6 reads, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart.
Yeah, and that's
Shema.
This is the Shema. Actually, Peter was married to this verse.
Great verse.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
This first
Okay.
text that was read.
Shema.
at
Yeah,
his
that's
wedding,
awesome.
yeah.
It's apt actually. That's a great passage that Sam just read. That shows us it really involves all of yourself. We apply our minds to His excellencies, to the thoughts of His attributes, and all of our wills, all of our lives are submitted to God, His Majesty, His will. So that's what worship is. As we mentioned before, there are specific places where we have ordered worship, right? Sunday worship in the home. Those are two good examples of where we see that. We do use music because it's a gift that God has given us. Specifically, singing is really, really important. And the reason why we do it in an ordered manner, and we have in our church specifically changed how worship, the Sunday order, looked over the last couple of years, is because as the elders continue to read the word, I think they have over the years continued to kind of craft the order to be more true to what we find in the word. We know that oftentimes because we are sinners, it's easy to make anything about ourselves. So I think we shouldn't think that it's such a far-fetched idea to think that sometimes we make worshiping God, especially on Sundays, about ourselves. You know, singing songs that we like, things that make us feel good. It's because we're human. We're prone to doing things like this. John Calvin talked about how the human heart is an idol-making factory, and so we know this is the way that our hearts are. But we do want to make sure that we give a right worship to the Lord. a pleasing worship. And so this means that God has to be worshipped and he has to be worshipped rightly. There's a number of different passages here. Maybe we could just look at a few that
Yeah.
kind of show us that God is to be worshipped according to his terms. We can look at Exodus chapter 20, verses 2 to 6.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 2 to 6 reads, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of slavery, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments.
Yeah, that's a good one because it does show that God is very clear about what worship should look like. Do you want to read another one? Should we do Leviticus chapter
Yeah.
10, verses 1 to 3?
This is Leviticus chapter 10, verse 1 to 3. Now Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his censer and put fire in it and laid incense on it and offered unauthorized fire before the Lord, which he had not commanded them. And fire came out from before the Lord and consumed them, and they died before the Lord. Then Moses said to Aaron, This is what the Lord has said. Among those who are near me I will be sanctified, and before all the people I will be glorified. And Aaron held his peace.
Another example we see of how the Lord does require a certain type of, or he does have clear instruction on how he is to be worshipped. I think those are two examples from the Old Testament that we see. God is especially clear, and especially in the Leviticus passage, we see what happened to the priests when it was not followed.
Yeah.
I think just more from like a practical perspective, people are always like, I want to worship how I want to worship.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, this is how I feel, so I should do it. And a very clear example of why you probably shouldn't do it that way is the birthday party example. So,
Oh.
you know, when you're... you have to include that, bro. But the birthday party example is, let's say it's Sam's birthday tomorrow,
Okay.
and, you know, we're singing happy birthday, and then it's for him, but then we're like, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Christine, or like, and
there
we
you go.
like do it for someone else, or like on your specific birthday, we don't get you protein and like 25-pound dumbbells,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
instead you just get him like, I don't know, something he dislikes, like a Celtics jersey. You know what I'm saying? Like they get you a Celtics jersey because I know how much you hate the Celtics, right? And then you'd be like, well, do these dudes even love me? Does Angela even love me?
Right.
My awesome wife?
Right.
So in that same vein, why wouldn't we do the same thing for God? Like, why wouldn't we try to worship him how he deems fit, how he wants us to worship him? So I think
Gotcha.
even just like that specific example, you want to do things that the person that you're doing things for loves, like, you know, especially if you love them. I think one other note that I want to mention just on music is music itself is very special. I don't know what it is, but I think it's something worth noting. It's one of those things like you can't really explain why, but you know it, you know, when you hear it or talk about it, like it hits you in so many different avenues.
It gets the people going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It gets you going emotionally, mentally, physically, and honestly, even spiritually, right? So, I mean, I'm just gonna go through like some examples. It's not, again, the disclaimer is like, it's not like it's straight from the Bible, but it's
Yeah.
just, you know, things like this common grace that I see when I see, you know, the effects that music has. So, you know, emotionally, the way that chord progressions hit combined with words can make you feel, you know, sad and lament. And then there's a switch. There's a switch of just one chord, and all of a sudden, that song can bring you to a place of joy and shouting. And, you know, something that I can think about is even like the song "It Is Well,"
Yeah.
because a lot of the song is very like, you know, kind of lamenty, and
Yeah.
then it goes into "It is well, it is well."
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But then right there's like this turn, and then there's this like tension, but then it brings you to this place of joy, right? Another way is obviously that's the emotional aspect. Mentally, for some reason, you can memorize a tune and its words more than if you just say it plainly. And also the way the words and music come together can really make you contemplate or reflect on what is being sung in ways maybe you wouldn't have ever imagined when you're just like reading it as is. And you know, worldly example is it's used in marketing. Like, nationwide is on your side.
Oh,
Now,
yep, they are.
when
They
I
are.
when I feel like, wow, I need to look for insurance. I need to be protected. I need someone who has my back no matter what. And you think about it,
Mm.
and then you remember that song, and you remember nationwide because yes, they're always on your side. And it's just
Uh-huh.
like this little thing of that you see, like just these mental cues that occur because of music.
Yeah.
Physically, it's obvious, but you hear like a waltz like beat, and without even thinking, all of a sudden you just start swaying because
Mm.
Sam, I know you like dancing, so you're just always
Love it.
swaying when that
Yeah.
beat comes through. You feel me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then you hear like a swing beat, then you
I feel
start,
you.
tapping your feet. You hear a trap hip hop beat, you start nodding your head and start, destroying the dance floor. You hear an EDM beat, right? And then all
Yeah.
you want to do is like pump your fist kind of thing.
Mm.
So all these examples physically and honestly, spiritually, I've heard so many times on how a specific song had ministered to a particular person when they were going through something or was down, and the words, the lyrics, the instrumentation of a song lifted them up, and the Lord used it to help them through tough times. And honestly, why wouldn't it? It's awesome music mixed
Mm.
in with God's truth is a great recipe to help you during the dark times, but especially the dark times in your journey. So yeah, I mean, with that said, you can kind of see how powerful music can be and how effective a tool it can be used to teach, preach, minister, etc. within the church.
Mhm.
Also, most of the music out there, especially now, is inherently anti-gospel. So why not continue to use music and make music that is God glorifying instead? So everything is about the self nowadays, but we see in scriptures and also throughout the church now that everything should be revolving around God. So why not music?
So, if I could just kind of sum up everything that we've just talked about so far, it's music is a gift that God has given us that we use to glorify Him.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, we see music being used to worship God all throughout the Bible. I know, Christine, you mentioned Miriam's song, and we see throughout the Bible where, trumpets are being played. And music is actually just all over the Bible in terms of as a way of worshiping God, right? And so that's why we have music in our service to worship God. Um, you know, I guess in terms of music, why specifically singing? We could have music up there where an orchestra is up there playing a beautiful prelude like we do once a month in our church services. So I guess why singing specifically? Why not just have like, an orchestra up there?
That's a great question, Sam. Why is singing specifically important? Um, I think I mentioned this before. We are a singing people. It's how God created
Amen.
us. This is how we are marked. God's people have always been singing people. There's a book
Yes.
called Sing by Keith and Kristen Getty. It's a really good book. And actually, it does say here that we are all singers. We may not be very good singers, but we are all created to be singers nonetheless. We see in the book of Psalms, the psalmist sings, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." This is Psalm chapter 139, verses 13 to 14. And a good chunk of the Psalms are songs, indeed. Yeah, so it's a command. It's not just because it's like a nice to do, it sounds nice, but it's actually a command. It's commanded a number of times all throughout the Bible.
So like in Ephesians 5:19, which is actually our music team's like I guess theme verse.
Addressing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody to the Lord with your heart.
Also says in Colossians 3:16, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs with thankfulness in your hearts to God.
Yeah. So we do see that it's a command to sing, and it's not just a command to sing to the Lord in worship. We are also commanded, as we see in the two passages that were just read, to sing to one another. And so when we gather on Sundays, it's especially important that we sing loud, whether you're good at singing or not, because as you sing, you are singing to your brother or to your sister. I remember I attended a conference once, and one pastor said that when he was struggling with anger in his heart, that Sunday, the congregation was singing a song based on Psalm 51, and he was just so deeply encouraged and moved to repentance in that moment. of just maybe some of the anger that he had that past week. And so, he left us saying, I wish we would sing more biblically sound and truthful songs to one another, that maybe as we sing, as you hear your brother or sister sing next to you, it would convict you, or it would remind you of the truths of God.
So we see in the Bible commands to sing. We see in the Bible using music to worship the Lord. And so, I mean, these are biblical proofs of why we do what we do on Sunday morning. And even like you said, in our family worship as well. An interesting question is, what process did our church go through in deciding which instruments are up there and which instruments are not up there? We don't see a harpsichord up there. We don't see a bagpipe up there, but we see drums, guitar, acoustic guitar, a bass, an organ sounding piano thing. How do we choose the instruments that are up there versus the instruments that are not up there?
I think a large part of it has to kind of do with how we started off. I mean, we definitely played with like a full band, like a band style, right? So we don't necessarily do like an orchestra with an organ. Nothing wrong with that. And actually, we would love to do that if we had an organ. We are starting to substitute some sounds with organ sounds, which has been really cool. We would love to have more choir and all that as well, which we are starting to incorporate a little bit more as well. But just our history, the history of our church is that we just started off as with a band. I think that was what was common around here. And so that's what we did. And so I think that might be how we started, but at least now what I know for sure is all the instruments that we do have on stage, it's not like we're no longer at a place where like, oh, we just keep these instruments around because that's how we do things, right? But I think as we continue to think about why we do the things that we do, especially in a Sunday worship gathering context, we do think about how each element, each instrument, each song, each lyric is really pointing people to God. And so every single instrument that is up there, and again, the quick disclaimer is there are many debates and discussions in the world of like music leading in churches about whether an electric guitar should be up there, whether a drum should be used or not. But I think for us, the rule of thumb really has been these instruments are there to make beautiful music, and also so that it encourages the congregation. So if ever there was a time that the music was too loud or in some way distracting people from what we're actually trying to do, at that point we probably would consider taking it out. And we have actually in the past, like, have been in situations where the music was too loud or the drums were too loud or this was too loud. So we've had to like adjust and make sure that we're not drowning out the sound of the church singing, because that's really important. And ultimately, it's not about us sounding good. It's about us bringing excellent music to God so that the congregation can be encouraged.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is cultural. I mean, we're called to use all our skills and talents. And a lot of the skills and talents that we learned growing up is a lot of the, modern, honestly, even like rock style types of instruments, which, aren't necessarily, I don't think, a bad thing. Christine had mentioned, there's some churches that don't have any instruments. They just have congregational singing, right? And then other churches that have much bigger production. So, in wisdom, we made the decision to continue on with, the instruments that we have. But the main focus, I just want to reiterate again, is to facilitate and really lead the people into congregational singing. Because in the end, we're not doing it as a performance. What we want to do is point everyone to Christ, point everyone up to God. So we're actually performing technically for an audience of one, or I don't know if performing is the right word, but we're worshiping an audience of one.
Right. And we talked about singing, we talked about music, and Christine, I think you mentioned before that we are a singing people. What if someone might think, well, I'm not really gifted in singing. I'm not very, very good at singing. As a matter of fact, if I sing, I might even discourage other people. What might you say to someone who does feel shy, who does feel not confident about singing aloud during a Sunday worship service?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's a command, so you should still sing. I mean, it's like the simplest one right there. Like, it's a command, so you should still sing, and you should sing loud. The other thing is you can learn. I think did you mention it before? Like everyone's a singer. Oh yeah, it was from the Sing
Mhm.
book, right? And even if you quote unquote think you're tone deaf, you can still hear a tune, and you could still get better. Every single person at a church, every single person, honestly, in the world can still get better at this. So it's something that you are called to do. So continue to foster this skill set that you have.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that we're to do is, going back to the Ephesians passage,
Yeah.
singing, addressing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. So right there, you see that we're supposed to address one another in it. We're supposed to be singing to one another. And while I think Christine had mentioned before, it's actually encouraging our fellow brothers and sisters. So
Yeah.
that's another reason why you should. And honestly, we're having a lot of babies coming through.
Yep,
We
yep.
a lot of, and then Pastor Eugene and Esther, they just gave birth, right? So even there, we're setting examples for the children that are coming up. They're watching us as we're worshiping. So why not give your full attention, your full all, even if you're not that good at it,
Yeah.
to the Lord, and sing with all your heart
Yeah.
and skill. Sorry, heart and skill.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I will just say, like, on the learning piece, I think, not everyone can sing well, but like we said before, everyone is a singer. And I think we even have members of our church who have come up to me and Peter and asked us to teach them how to sing. And one brother actually specifically asked to be taught how to sing because he wanted to lead his family worships better, which I just thought was so encouraging. But to Peter's point, we can always all get better. And I think, you can learn your part, your harmony part. You can learn how to sing the melody. There are things that you can do to be, a bit better. Just an example, too, of the watching little ones. I think that's specifically why we now have our little ones join us in worship, right? Up until offering. So they give their offering with us and then they leave to go to the children's
yep.
ministry. And we want the little ones to be able to worship with us. But then
Yep.
a big part of that is kind of the example that they see by watching. I've seen some videos of some of our younger ones singing at home, and they kind of pick up very similar, like, worshiping tics, like raising their hand, or like
Yeah.
like kind of like slamming their hand into their other hand, or
Uh-huh.
like clapping a certain way. Like, and when I watch them, I'm like, wow, that looks like so and so in our congregation, or that looks like their mom or dad when they're worshiping. So you
Yeah.
can tell they're watching you and they're learning from you. One example that I can think of, and I always think back to, is from the Sing conference. This one leader who was up in the panel shared that he grew up watching his father sing, and his father was actually so bad at singing, and he never sang anywhere else because he was so bad, but only at church his father would sing. And to him, this communicated the importance of actually singing to God. Just one additional thing is, I think it's really important that we do our best to make it good, like to be excellent as much as possible. So that's also why the music team holds to a certain standard of musical excellence. And that's also why we're encouraging people who maybe feel like they can't sing to maybe learn, to get better.
Actually, you bring up a good point. I was always curious, when and why did we change the ministry from like praise team to music team, or worship ministry or praise ministry to music ministry? So why the change, and when did that happen?
Like calling it.
Yeah, like the naming of it,
yeah.
because I'm sure there's a specific reason why we call it that.
Yeah, I think the reason why is because we're not the only ones who worship. So, I mean, we went through the definition of worship before, or we talked a little bit about it. Like, worship is what you do with your whole life. Music is a part of that, it falls under that. And so, so we just wanted to make it extremely clear and just say, this is the music ministry. We handle the music portion of our worship service.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we don't want to separate it out. Like, oh, this is my worship time, and then
Right.
okay, here's a sermon. Like
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a
like.
good point.
Oh, that worship was awesome, but like our whole service is worship. So what are you talking about
Yeah,
at
that's
that
so
point,
good.
right? So
Right.
yeah, we really want to be as clear as possible. Music's part in the worship
Right.
that we give to the Lord.
I think specifically for our church, I've even heard questions of, why do we only sing old people songs? This was asked by a youth group member, and I said that's a great question, and I think it'd be great if our music ministry leaders would answer that for us. And so, yeah, why do we only sing old people songs, and by that I'm assuming hymns, classical hymns. What about the new stuff? What about Hillsong Young and Free, Yaf? How come we don't sing any Yaf?
Yeah, if they are talking about hymns, I'll address hymns specifically. Well, actually, so before we talk about the types of songs we sing, the reason why we sing the songs that we do sing, just as a general statement, is again, we're trying to be as intentional as we can be about the songs we sing. Considering everything that we just talked about, we know that the songs that we sing not only are worship to God, but also teaches the congregation something. So every single word you sing says something about God, says something about God's attributes or who he is, about the salvation story. And so I think Pastor Eugene made this really clear to our music ministry that even our songs are teaching moments. And so with that being said, we want to always pick the most theologically rich sound songs that we can. So hymns are a really great example of that. One, because they're beautifully written. They're very comprehensive from beginning to end. A lot of them, not all, but a lot of them do kind of take you through the full story. So for example, if it's talking about salvation through Christ on the cross, it'll take you from beginning to end, like Christ coming in the form of a baby, all the way through to his death on the cross, to his victory as he rose again, even to the moment of when we die or when he comes back. So like certain hymns will cover all of that. So it's very comprehensive. And then theologically, they're sound. The other thing that we like about hymns is that they've stood the test of time. So there are certain hymns that have been sung throughout the history of the church for a long time. We sing them because our church, our ancestors have, our spiritual brothers and sisters have sung them for so long. So we know that they're solid songs. There's more about why we don't sing certain songs from certain bands. Maybe Peter, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely certain things that we don't want to do. So one of the main things that people relate music, now at least, quote unquote music or worship nowadays, is prioritizing emotional responses as a primary driver. So, if the song makes me feel a certain way and it leads me to cry and shout and leads me to joy, like then that's a good song right then and there, which is obviously wrong. Picking songs that are lyrically or questionable or confusing. So maybe something about the wording is not theologically correct, or when you sing, you're like, oh, what does that mean? So that's something that we don't want to happen. Picking songs that are overall heretical, like they're just saying things that are not true, like that are not biblical, and that we've kind of fell victim to that. I mean, it's been only a couple years since we really kind of refined a lot of this stuff, and we were singing things that were truly not biblical at that point. And then I think in the end, we just want to pick songs that are written by people who are trustworthy. So if they're not trustworthy, if we know that their theology is a bit off, we know who they kind of work with all the time, and the message that they're bringing across, and it's not aligned with what we believe in the word, we don't really want to proceed with singing songs from those specific artists.
Yeah, I think in a very obvious example that I know Sam and Pastor Eugene have covered multiple times on different podcasts is Bethel, right? I think a lot of what Bethel stands for is heretical, and so a lot of their songs we don't sing because we don't agree with their theology. But also there is that question of how come we don't sing the songs that are lyrically sound, or they're theologically, it checks out, but it's just written by these people. And, I think, again, there are different discussions around this, but I think at our church, we've just decided, in order to not be confusing, especially maybe for some of our younger congregants or even those who are new to the faith, we choose not to sing songs by certain people that we know still stand for certain things that we just don't agree with theologically. Just because even if one song is good, maybe someone will go and start listening to more songs by that artist, and then they'll get confused, right? So that's like one example. Or, I think Pastor Eugene has mentioned this on another podcast. We would necessarily don't want to support them financially. So every time we sing a song, every time we use the copyright, the CCLI number to sing a certain song, we give money to that organization or that church, and we don't necessarily want to do that.
Gotcha. I've heard some news on the grapevine that our music ministry actually participates in songwriting, that we write our own songs. And I think we've heard them actually, we've heard a couple of them during Sunday worship as well.
Yeah. We have been writing songs for many years now, but only a few have kind of really made it to our Sunday services. Um, and it's just a process that we're going through. And I think one of the things that one of our motivations for this is we know our church. We
Mm.
know what's going on within our walls and, the things that are occurring. So with that, we should have a heart to minister to our church, kind of which leads, because we're in the music ministry, brings us to a point to write songs for our church. So that's a lot of what the motivations, even the themes that we've been choosing, especially when we do songwriting. But, most of us are not experts.
Yeah.
Even though we have been going through that practice, and though a lot of the songs that we have made are good, they're not the best. And that's something that we're going to keep working on. I know that, we've been presenting some of these, but there's just so much refinement that occurs. And one of the things that Christine had mentioned was stood the test of time. So those are things where, we want to make sure we really go through like three buckets to make sure like all these songs are, good, is if they're artistically beautiful, congregationally accessible, and theologically correct and strong. So those are the three criteria we always put together when we're putting, songs together for Sunday, but even that's the same vein that we put together for when we do songwriting. So that's why we have such a harsh, I guess, understanding of, what, when we do present songs and, why we haven't necessarily done them. It's because honestly, at this point, they're not good enough, and we want to make sure they get to that point.
Yeah.
But it's still something that we're gonna keep, working on, and
Yeah.
hopefully soon it can be part of our overall, list of songs that we're able to sing together on Sundays and Saturdays.
And I'll just read Psalm chapter 33, verses 2 to 3, which we actually talk about this verse a lot when it comes to songwriting. It says, "Praise the Lord with the harp, make music to him on the 10-stringed lyre, sing to him a new song, play skillfully, and shout for joy." We talk about this verse a lot. I mean, there's obviously discussion around what new means, but we can also bring a literal new song to the Lord. And so this passage or this verse is inspiration for a lot of why we do the songwriting, and to Peter's point, why we have some of that criteria. And just a note too, this verse talks about playing skillfully, which is why we hold to a certain standard of musical excellence.
Any advice for those seeking to serve in the music ministry? What does the audition process look like? If someone's new to our church and they just become a member and they want to serve in the music ministry, how they go about doing that?
So I think a lot of times Peter and I often, when people want to join, we often ask the question, why? Why do you want to join? Is it because you used to play at your old church and you're looking for a place to serve, and so that's why you want to? Is it because you have a passion for music? Is it because you align to the theological convictions that the music ministry has? Like, what's the reason? And I think part of the reason why we ask the reason is because with music ministry, because it's such a public ministry, like we're on the stage every Sunday, we the people on the team also like are constantly asking ourselves this question of, is my heart in the right place? Like, am I doing this for myself? And I think especially with music ministry, other ministries as well, but especially with music ministry, this could get confusing or a little bit blurry, right? Like, just to know your heart motives. And so we often ask that question, like, why do you want to serve in this ministry? And then we hope that people would understand it's really not about you. There's a great burden and responsibility that falls on the music ministry because, as I mentioned before, the ministry really does help to add to the service, right? So the Sunday gathering is like the pinnacle. We look forward to it as saints. And so what we do when we gather together is extremely important. We stand before a holy God. And so there are guidelines, there are specific things that we hold to, and you just can't be all about yourself because we adhere to certain like I said, guidelines, things that our elders kind of push us to do in music. And so you can't be here to be like, oh, I'm so good at singing, look at me, or I'm so good at playing my instrument, I shred, like I'm so great. It really can't be about that. Like maybe you play an instrument that plays one note the entire song and then you don't play again. but that's, you got to be okay with that. Like, that is a blessing even to be able to do that. And you also have to understand, like, every part that plays, whether they play one instrument or they play the majority of the song or one note, whatever, is important. It's all a big part of what we're trying to do to make this beautiful sound unto the Lord. So yeah, first and foremost, you just have to understand this is not about you. It's really about God, and we're trying to fight our innate, like, sinful nature that tries to make it about ourselves.
Yeah, and I guess on the specific audition process, following up from what Christine's saying, we do it very slow. So if they want to serve right away, and then they're like, "Wait, why do I have to wait so long?" Right then, that's like an indicator. Maybe this person isn't ready. But we do it slow. We tell them to come to our practices. We have monthly Monday meetings once a month where we go through books, go through training. With the whole new worship order, we're learning different parts, the melody, the tenor, the alto, bass parts, to foster singing and all those things. So, and we encourage them to, improve on their skill sets. And after they slowly get acclimated to all those different things, then we ask them to audition and prepare a couple songs. And honestly, not everyone, we'll just do this disclaimer, not everyone on the praise team went through this process, but it's just because we've been changing over time. And honestly, the standard has changed to much higher. So anyone else who joins a team, we want to make sure that they're good enough to be up there. I mean, I don't know how else to kind of say it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want someone who can't sing a tune like be up there. But even if you can sing a tune, are you still good enough to lead us in song on Sundays? And that's a tough conversation that we kind of go through, especially during the audition. So we kind of put them through the ringer of like, all right, what if we gave you this song? We make them play with a metronome. We change, we make them transpose on the spot. We play them a song, and then from there, they have to pick up the tune. And it's just because these are everyday things for our team that we have to be able to pivot on the spot. And if you can't do it, then maybe you're not ready at that point. But, after you go through all those things, then you can kind of join the team.
Yeah, and word of encouragement to those maybe who don't have the musical ability or aren't up to maybe the standard that's set by the team. Like, we'll let you know how you can improve, and one really great way that you can grow is maybe just practice on your own, get lessons, and do these things. We've had people do that and come back and re-audition. So it's not like it's a no forever, right? And so there's also like a time and place, and maybe if this is not the place that you serve now, you can serve in plenty of other ministries around the church. So
true.
Yeah, practice on your own and come back if you really feel led to.
Yeah, and I guess like the other thing is like you just got to be humble, honestly. You have to be willing to submit and ready to be corrected. Musicians in general are divas, so don't be a diva. I know Sam's always like asking for solos and stuff. I'm like, no, Sam, you can't have a drum solo every song. I give it to him once in a while, just because he begs me every single week. But and I think, there's really two avenues to this. The thing that actually bothers me more is the first point is false humility. Oh, it makes me so upset because it's like you pretend not to be good enough at whatever, and you're not worthy to be playing certain parts, so then you don't play loud enough or you don't play creatively. And I'm like, dude, like, you're good enough. Like, please play these parts. Just because you're shy, just just practice harder. Like, you're good enough. Okay?
Why are you looking at me though? I'm so curious.
I'm gonna look at Christine.
Oh, okay,
dude,
okay,
you're good enough. Sing into the mic. Okay? All right, you're not going sharp.
I'm trying.
But then, honestly, the second one that we obviously want to avoid is the attention seeker, right? If you're shredding too hard on the guitar, if you're playing too many solos on the drum, right, Sam? Those are two aspects where, we ask you to be humble. Like, see yourself in a sober mind, and from there, keep trying to progress from those abilities. And I think in the end, it's worship, not a performance. So the music team is only facilitating that worship. So if the music is leading people to worship the team and not God, there's a problem. But if the music team makes it about themselves and how they are viewed, again, that's also a problem. So when people see us and hear the music, they're being pointed to Christ. And that's the truly primary thing that we look for, especially for our music team. From the Sing book, it's on page. Wait, I don't have to say the page.
No.
So from the Sing book, it says, primarily and fundamentally, you are there to help God's people sing. It is not a restriction or reduction of your talent to do so. You put loving your neighbor as yourself into practice as you help God's family sing. Only fools think their artistry is more important than serving the congregation. Dang, that's good. That's
Yeah,
really
that's so good. Yeah. So it's very clear that there's specific purpose for the music team. I kind of want to read the Second Chronicles passage. Can I?
Yeah.
A really great example of the music team having a specific role. In 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verses 21 to 22. And when he had taken counsel with the people, he appointed those who were to sing to the Lord and praise him in holy attire, as they went before the army and say, give thanks to the Lord, for his steadfast love endures forever. So we do have a role.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very important one at that. I wanted to go into a quick time of just fun Q&A. Not that this hasn't been fun. This has been delightful, but
Has it?
Yep. So this is fun. How did you guys both start on Praise Team?
At CGS?
No, just like in life.
I started in
Sorry, music team.
music team. Thank you. Here we go. I started in, I think, 7th or 8th grade, and it's because my parents were part of the
Choir.
choir, and they always had these anthem songs. And they wanted to do something special for, I think, Easter or Christmas, so they asked me to play. So honestly, that was like my first introduction to playing for the church or in the music team. So I played the song called, I think it was like Hosanna. So it was Hosanna, dun, dun. Do you guys know that song?
That song, yeah.
Hosanna, dun, boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom.
I have no idea.
Yeah, so that was like one of the
Dang.
first songs that I learned, and that was like my first introduction. And then at my previous church, I played drums and then sung a little bit. But then I guess for CGS and previously, we were known as the Pilgrim. I just came because my parents came there, and in the first week, Hesu introduced me to the pastor at the time. And then I was on the praise team like a week after, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so
True talent.
no, it's
Can't
just
be
because they
hidden.
didn't have a process, so that's how I started.
You're
and
a gem
been
that
playing
can't
since.
be hidden.
Wow. I started actually similarly. I played violin and piano for a long time, and then I just was asked to play
How
with
long?
the choir since I was 4 for violin,
Seems a little
and then
braggy.
5 for piano. Well, it's not like I play now. I stopped.
Wait, were you like first chair?
Yeah, but in a super small town, like
Yeah,
nobody.
but did you
played
do
violin.
state?
I think this is the number one false humility that Peter was talking
No.
about.
So I played instruments at a young age, and then I was asked to play on choir with my parents a long time ago as well. And then, I don't know, in high school, Peter and I were on a team together for a high school Christian club.
Harvesters, baby.
Yeah, so that's where I got to play
The
more.
harvest is plenty, the workers are few.
Word.
Right?
That was
Yes,
what
sir.
it was based
Yes,
on.
sir.
Anyway,
Scripture.
so actually, it was through that ministry that Peter and I got close, and then Peter started attending our previous church, and then I also went to that church because I was looking for a church at the time. And then, similar to Peter, I also joined Praise Team relatively early because at the time, Pastor Eugene was our youth pastor, and he introduced me to Pastor Eugene and was like, "Oh, maybe we want her to join the music team."
I'm pretty sure you were saying mighty to save like the week after.
No, it was like a month after. Because at
Was
that
it?
point, Pastor Eugene had asked me to come to the praise team meetings for a month before I served. So
Oh, right.
That's awesome that you guys are so talented. What is your
Wait, are you not going to answer you?
yeah, how about
No,
you?
no, no
How
one
did
cares
you
about me.
join?
Yeah,
Cam days,
Cam.
Samuel.
Actually, my story is a little bit
Did,
more sad.
Okay,
than-
please.
Yeah,
We'd
so,
love to hear it.
What is your favorite worship song at the moment? Just one, Christine. Not 30,000.
These days, I'm listening a lot to "Oh Love That Will Not Let Me Go." "Wilt Not Let Me Go" is the official title.
Gotcha. Peter?
I really like Goodness of Jesus by City of Light.
City of Light. Who holds the longest practices? I could chime in on this one. It's Christine.
It's not. Contrary to popular belief, it's not me anymore.
Dude, it might be me, dude.
Really?
Yeah. Or honestly,
Really?
it might be Jubin or Kenny.
Really?
It might be.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah.
Are you sure about that,
No,
Christine?
Christine's normally, honestly, we finish before 10 now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, for those of you that may not know, the music team practices every Thursday at 8 p.m. And Christine normally goes into the wee hours of the morning, and so that's why I was just saying that. But
Well, no, look, okay, so I practice because we need to be ready, right? So, like, we're not gonna move on if the song's not good. So that's why those practices are long. But I think the reason why my practices have gotten shorter is because we just play the same arrangements, so
Yeah.
the team kind of knows how to play. Also, we meet earlier now. The vocalists meet earlier. Peter's practices are maybe a little longer because he tries new things. And
He
new
does try a lot
arrangements
of
and
new
stuff,
things,
which is
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, but probably, honestly, it's probably Kenny or Jubin. Consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kenny or Juven? Okay. Interesting. What is the most sung song in our church in 2022 thus far?
Wow, it's Behold Our God.
Oh, that's
To date.
Behold
Oh
Our
yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah. We
Wait,
have.
can you sing that
No,
one
it's
really
because we
quickly?
we sang it like 4 weeks straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sing it.
Behold our God.
Wow,
Seated
Okay,
on
you
the
don't have
throne.
to show off. Okay, thank you so
Okay.
much.
that was nice.
So, last question. If you could play any instrument that is not your own, what would it be and why?
Oh, it'd definitely be piano. Why are you laughing? I can't. Oh man, I'm such a disappointment to my family.
His mom is a piano player.
Yeah, your
Piano
mom is like a
teacher.
professional piano
Dude,
player.
she was like,
Pianist.
yeah, she's a legit pianist.
Yeah, actually.
and
though.
like amazing. And
Yeah.
then there's me and my brother.
It's okay.
I don't know, dude. I feel like it's.
You play drums. That's kind of a mallet instrument. So,
But if I was gonna do it again, that's my biggest regret.
not keeping up with piano.
Yeah.
Nice.
But if there was one, it was rebelling against my mom and not like
okay.
learning piano and like, dude, it's just so fundamental to everything.
That's true.
And like, man, like nowadays, yo, Jamie Foxx when
Yeah.
he plays, oh, so cool. I mean, sorry, it's not about me though. Like, I should be
Yeah.
doing it to lift it up to the
Yeah.
Lord, but definitely piano.
Christine, if you had to switch an instrument, right? I know you played 90,000, but if you had to just change one, what would it be and why?
I would love to play drums or cello.
Ooh, cello.
Oh, cello is great.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's been a great addition
Yeah.
to our praise
Yeah, it
team.
really has
I
been.
love having
Great.
cello. Should be every week.
Yeah.
Hear that, Jamie?
All right. Thank you, Peter and Christine. Thank you for just really joining us here this Monday morning and explaining to us the music ministry and what we stand for and why we do the things that we do. You know, why we sing the songs that we sing and why we even sing at all. And so we thank you for just stopping by. Really for like 2 hours though, Christine, right? But stopping by and just kind of sharing with us your wisdom and your know-how. Any last words? Not for your life, but I'm just saying, any last words for the podcast? It almost sounded like a threat. I didn't mean it to be like a
It
threat.
sound like a
Any last
threat.
words?
Yeah, I didn't mean it to be.
Dude, why are you flexing so hard,
I
bro?
didn't mean it to be a threat.
No, but thank you for having us.
Wait, that's it?
Really?
Actually, there is one thing I was gonna say.
Yeah, just one, please.
Yeah, I wanted to plug. I wanted to plug the podcast episode on the new worship order.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Super helpful.
Oldie but a goodie, as they say.
Yes.
Mm.
Yep. Any last words for the podcast, Peter?
No, I appreciate Sam you inviting me.
So we thank you, Christine and Peter, and we thank you for listening to this episode of the Dear Church podcast. Join us next week as we will finally, actually, did you know? Join us next week as we will be having our 100th episode. And for our 100th episode, there's a little surprise coming. I'm not going to tell you what. It's a surprise. But you will not want to miss it next Monday morning. We hope and pray that this has been a blessing in your ears. Fight the good fight. Finish the race. Keep the faith.
Peace.
So the chord progressions. Christine, can you just actually give us a chord progression with which it does that? Because you sing.
Da, da, da.
That was horrendous.
And that
Somewhere
wasn't
be-
even.
Well, I can't do that. I can't sing chords. I can sing a note.
Okay.
No, you could do a
What
chord
note is
progression.
this? To my understanding, you're also a producer. Am I right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I go by the producer tag, Don Katsu. Oh my. Mashike mokoja.